Welcome to the Master Dealmaker's Secrets podcast. And now, here's sales growth strategist, John Blake.
Welcome to Master Dealmaker's Secrets. I'm John Blake. This is episode 73, and today we're going to talk about the 5 simple steps that you can use to get an appointment with your ideal clients. These are the ones that aren't coming to you through your normal marketing, and this is a strategy that I've been teaching now for a number of years, and I'm sure you will get a stack of value out of it. But before we do that, if you've got leads in your funnel and you want to convert more of those leads into paying clients, get over to johnblakeaudio.com and grab your free audio training where I show you the exact strategy that you can use to double your sales with your existing lead flow. So this is the exact same strategy that I teach my high-ticket clients. It works consistently once you put it into practice, and that is what you want. You want consistent results. So head over to johnblakeaudio.com. Not only will you get the audio training, you will get the PDF that has the word-for-word email templates, exactly what to say when you call these people that haven't converted yet, and it'll also show you exactly when to call and when to email over an 8-week period to maximize your conversions with those ones that didn't convert in the initial conversation. So I'm sure you'll get a stack of value out of that, and I look forward to hearing your success story. Okay, so episode 73. This is the direct to corporate formula, the direct a play that you can make to your dream clients, and exactly how to do that. So there's a number of things that I could talk about in terms of how to go direct. If you've been following me for a while, you'll know my thinking around, using cold calling or using cold email. There are some contexts in which those work. This particular strategy is one that I've used now for a number of years. I've taught it for a number of years, and it does work particularly well. And so there are essentially 5 steps that you can use to make this happen. The thing that I wanted also to point out to you is that there's a bit of a ladder when it comes to this stuff, right? So there are people that say that they get a 90% conversion rate, and typically what that means is that the client is pre-sold. So typically people that say I've got a 90% conversion rate, what's happened there is that they've had a lead in their funnel for a particular period of time, and that lead has been very indoctrinated by their marketing, which, if you're really good at funnels, is a great outcome. So really good marketers, can put these funnels together, and they go through, and they're geared behaviorally, and what then happens is that they have what's called a discovery call, and then they sell them into a second call, and then they say, I've got a 90% conversion. But what they don't tell you is that lead has jumped through multiple hoops on the way to that particular conversation that has resulted in a 90% conversion rate. So technically speaking, yes, they do have a 90% conversion rate, but what often isn't made clear is that there's a hell of a lot of indoctrination that actually takes place prior to that. So that's at one end of the spectrum, and then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got this 100% commoditized perception. So at the good end of the spectrum, you've got where your client perceives you as an industry expert, sees you as a specialist, and sees you as an authority. That's at one end of the spectrum. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got this scenario where they see you as 100% commoditized, and they don't see any point of difference in your product as opposed to anything else. And what happens is that you get compared, on price, and you get a pretty low disposition to buy. So with that in the background, I want to now explain to you the direct strategy that I use with clients, and this will all make sense as we go. So step number one is you need to identify your ideal client. And typically the best way to do that is to say, okay, so who are my best clients right now? If I had a magic wand, which ones would I pull out the magic wand and duplicate straight away? And then I go, okay, great. So now I need to find a list of clients that are just like them. So they could be industry type, they could be industry size, they could be niched, so they might be in a particular niche. But the first step is to identify who they are, and often this is a pretty cool strategy. It's a pretty cool thing to do, right? One of the best ways to do that is to drive around your industrial areas. Often just driving around industrial areas and looking at all of the different buildings and different signs can be a great place to say, oh, what do they do? Oh, yeah, I could help them. They'd be a good client. So that's a good place to write down potential contacts that you would like to work with. Another way is you can look on the job boards and see who's advertising, because typically the companies that are advertising are growing, and if they're growing, they're often after new products and services and new solutions. And the other place is to look where people are advertising, because if people are advertising, they are typically growing, or they're looking to grow, and they're all good places to look for your ideal clients. You can also do a search using the Sales Navigator, or just the paid version of LinkedIn. That's a good place to look. And it's a good place to then, have a good list, have a gutsy list, somewhere in between 50 and 100 of these people that you would ideally love to work for or work with, but aren't beating a path to your door. So once you've identified who they are, then you can start to work out, who the decision makers, who they are. One of the great ways to look on LinkedIn. If you're looking for people, people's roles, LinkedIn is a great place to look. So if you can get as much information as possible, so the name of the company, the address of the company, and the contact of that particular company, that is step one. Okay. So step two is you want to fine tune the list. So you can fine tune the list by just tightening up your criteria a bit. So an example of tightening up the list is I had a client that I worked with, and he sold photocopiers, and he'd made a big list of people that he would ideally love to sell a photocopier to. And he said, how am I going to fine tune the list? And I said, well, ring them up. I said, you don't even need to speak to the decision maker, just talk to the receptionist and say, do you currently have a photocopier? How long have you had that photocopier for? And are you happy with it? Right? So if you are trying to fine tune your list, knowing one, if you already have a photocopier, two, if how long you've had that photocopier for, and three, if you're happy with it, having answers to those three questions can help you to fine tune your list. So that's an example of how you can fine tune a list of people that you are looking to get in front of. So that's step number two, is to fine tune your list. Step number three is to send them something, but in doing so, build on small agreements. So a small agreement is, an example of a small agreement is if I cold call a company and I manage to get through to that person, and I manage to have a conversation with that person, and I manage to engage that person in the idea of meeting, and then I arrive at that particular meeting, that is one met agreement. If I mail them something and there's a cover letter that I send with the package that I send it to them, and the package positions me really powerfully, usually from an education-based marketing perspective, but in the cover letter, there's a note that says, I am going to call you within 2 business days. So the person receives a package, there's a cover letter in there, and it says, hi, this is John Blake. I'm going to call you within 2 days, within 2 working days. And you call them within 2 working days, and then you have a conversation with them. And then in that conversation, you manage to make an appointment, and then you rock up at that appointment at the time and on the day that you said that you were going to rock up. Before you've talked anything regarding business, that relationship is sitting on 2 met agreements, right? It's 2 small agreements things that you have said that you will do, that you have done. First thing you said you were going to do, you were going to call them within 2 working days. Second thing that you said that you were going to do was arrive at an appointment on the day and the time that you said. So straight away, that relationship is sitting on 2 met agreements. So that's what I mean about that. That step 3 is to understand that you can build on small agreements. So that increases trust, because the number one trust barrier that anyone has with a new company that they're considering doing business with is really simple. Is this person going to do the things that they are telling me that they are going to do? And if you've already done 2 things that you said you were going to do, then you are 100% ahead of anyone else who just cold calls. So that's step number 3. Step number 4 is actually mail them something. So mail them a package with a cover letter. So the package typically should contain some education-based marketing material, not just a brochure. It also needs to have a cover letter that goes with the package, and the way that cover letter needs to be worded is very important. So it needs to be worded in a particular way, and then when they receive the package, they see that it is of value. That the information that you put in there needs to be well presented. As I said, it needs to have a cover letter, and it needs to position you as a unique resource, someone who's adding value in the form of useful information that's going to help that particular business owner, not just information about your product. And then step number 5 is to call them. So the idea is that if you have done those things correctly, you can elevate yourself from this 100% commoditized, right? So an example of that could be, hey, I wanted to talk to you about photocopiers, right? So that's 100% commoditized, because, anyone can sell a photocopier. An example of well positioned and the client more pre-sold, or you being positioned in a more powerful way, would be you send them a package, and in the package it has the 5 biggest ways that you can save thousands of dollars on your printing costs every year, without having to outsource any of your printing. Something like that. I mean, I know that's a far-fetched example, but ways that you can save thousands of dollars on your printing costs. 5 key ways that you can save thousands of dollars on your printing costs, without spending any more money on your photocopier, or something to that effect. That is more likely to be of interest to your target customer than you just sending them a brochure that has a whole bunch of photocopiers in there. So that's the difference between being 100% commoditized and being perceived at the other end of that spectrum, which is the industry expert, the specialist, and the authority. So that is my 5-step direct to corporate formula, and I'm probably going to talk more about this because I haven't really talked too much about this in the podcast previously, and all the different nuances around going direct to your dream clients. But I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you very much for listening. Cheers.
You've been listening to Master Dealmaker's Secrets with John Blake. Subscribe to get more in-depth strategies to maximize your sales process with new episodes every week. And double your inquiry to sale conversion with the lead flow you already have. Go to johnblakeaudio.com for his exclusive free no-fluff audio training and companion PDF guide.